You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
Whoa, what a crazy week. Well, you know what? I don't know, man. I'm trying to curb my, that show Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm trying to curb my anger at a couple different things.
Whoa. Ronnie, curb your anger. You're the angry man. That's who you are. You're the angry man. That's what I call him, the angry man.
The angry man.
Angry man. So
I'm just angry.
It's never been curbed, so don't give me that.
Yeah. No other adjectives needed in there. Just the angry quote man, right? Right. Yeah. Okay. So, as a former defensive back, I take that as a compliment, by the way. I just want you to know that. Because good DBs are all angry. Just good defensive players are all angry.
Right.
I never met a defensive coordinator that wasn't angry.
You gotta have some heat. Yep.
Even the guys that were nice, smiley, sunshiny guys, they had something going on somewhere they were angry about. That's what made them good, right? Yep. Oh man. So, anyways, okay, let's start with this one. Let's just go back and we're in COVID protocol adjustment period again, folks. In case you hadn't noticed. Games are getting postponed, moved, pushed forward. We've seen that go down. On Monday here, you had two games. You had the Raiders and Cleveland, and then you had the Vikings and Bears. We'll talk about that. But first, let's go.
I hope we don't talk about the Vikings and Bears.
Whew, that was rough. That was rough country. Rough country, folks.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's bounce back to that. The Patriots-Colts game. And so, the Patriots are riding high, okay, long win streak, and they go down to Indy, and you didn't want to say trap game for a team that's playing that well, and Indy's a better team than that.
Yeah, they're a better team than call it a trap game. I think
you can't say that, right?
Indy is they're what you want to be. I guess as a coach, when you start off the season, you look at the season and say, we just want to get better every week. They had a real tough beginning, but they've gotten better every week, and they're a top 5 or so defense in the league, and they're the number one team in the league. So you have the top rushing team and one of the best defenses in the league. You're going to be a solid football team, and Wentz, he's a good quarterback. So I think they're going to be a big factor coming down the stretch. They're a lot like San Francisco to me, two real physical football teams that are starting to catch their stride now. So, I think it was a physical beatdown for them too, which, in terms of the New England Patriots, is surprising, but they controlled that football game from the very beginning.
They did, and Jonathan Taylor, who's making his bid now for the MVP, and he did in that game with 170 yards rushing, by the way, on 29 carries. The game plan was solid. We knew there would be good coaching going on. Frank Reich is a very good coach, and of course, going up against Belichick. The Patriots, they stubbed their toe on a couple things, and the big one was the block punt for the touchdown.
Right.
And I don't know that. So there's two things that you can't survive if you do these two things in football, and here they are. One is a pick six. Throw a pick six most of the time. Not all the time. Most of the time, you're going to lose the game.
Against good teams, you're going to lose. Yeah,
you're gonna lose the game. And I know I don't know exactly what the statistic is, but I think it jumps well over 50% that you lose that game after a pick six.
We experienced that in the Super Bowl, so I can tell you from
Right. And then the second one is a blocked kick of any sort. Those two things. If you want to lose a game fast, do one of those two things. And if you really want to guarantee you lose it, just do both.
Yeah. And that's surprising for New England. But like I said, you got to it's less about New England than it is about how well Indy played. I think
not taking anything away from them.
They physically got after him, and Two teams that were very physical in that game. Wentz, I don't know how many passes he threw, 7 or 8 passes in that game.
Yeah.
He need to, and then of course, I looked at some of the comments about Jones and that interception in the end zone. How could he throw it with a linebacker standing there? Well, I know that play. We used to run that play in the red zone. That's a very familiar play to me.
Yeah.
I don't, him throwing the ball to him isn't bad. What he did do is he just didn't get enough air on the ball. And that's a touch throw. And he threw it a little firm. And I know he saw the linebacker. He was just trying to get it over him, just didn't get it done.
Yeah. Now he threw 2 interceptions and they've managed him up to that point very well. And here's the irony of the whole game. Talk about flipping scripts. Buffalo plays the Patriots in Buffalo, and the Patriots don't pass the ball. I think Mac Jones threw 5 passes or 3 of 5, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Guess what Wentz's numbers were? 5 of 12 for 57 yards. He managed to somehow throw an interception in there, but they took their game plan sort of and used it against them. And the Colts, as we said with Taylor, they ran the heck out of the ball. They had over 226 yards rushing, 226 yards rushing to be exact.
So when you can rush for over 200 yards, Ron, and you're just methodically getting first downs, but you're grinding that clock. The clock all of a sudden starts to accelerate. And so you gobble up all this possession, and then you get points off it. On the other side, it puts you in because I've been through that. It puts you in a little panicky mode on the other side because when you get the ball, you feel like you really have to do something with it because you may not see it again for another 7 or 8 minutes.
That's right. No, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but this is going to be good. 9-5 now. Patriots are okay, and the Buffalo Bills are coming. Okay, and they're going to see them this coming week, and they're 8-6. So here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is what you watch for, right, Mike?
Yeah,
right?
It is. And the thing that'll be interesting to me is see how well the Buffalo defense responds because they kind of tore them up there last time they played a week or two ago. So, and that's about best defense in the league, I think. Isn't that one of the top 2?
Yeah, no, they're up there. Yeah. They're good.
So I think Buffalo, and they've made an attempt to run the ball a little bit. It's kind of a cursory thing. It's just not what they do, But the game that was kind of interesting to me was that Thursday night game with the Chargers and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next. So since you teed it up, I'll stand back and
the Chargers played so well. That's the best I've seen them play this year overall as a football team. And they got down the 5-yard line twice and got no points.
Right.
They went for it on 4th down, which is fine. I understand that because at 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, you're inside the 5. I get that. But the one I didn't get was they're out around the 20-yard line right before half, I think. And they went for it on 4th down. And then I think they were up by a point. A field goal puts you up 4 points where they have to, it's a touchdown to beat you. So that was the only thing that I would say he should have kicked it then. The other 2, it is what it is. I know he'll get, he probably got pummeled on that. I don't know. I didn't read it, but the one I really wish he'd have kicked it was when he was out in the field. Inside the 5, I think you go for it.
Now, and as I recall, the first 2 were relatively early in the game.
They were.
And then the one you're talking about came and I had no problem with early. And I think that plays too. Okay, you got to get a feel of the game, a flow of the game. You trust your gut instincts as a coach, right? And you go with that. But now as this game gets later, and especially if it's a lower scoring game or you feel like points are going to be a premium more than ever before, then it felt like it was time to kick one of them at least.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah. And I think the biggest thing too is, they're playing Kansas City right now. It's found their stride. And what it says is, we need touchdowns. We don't need 3 points. That's kind of that mindset too.
Yeah.
But inside the 5-yard line, Ron, you think if you don't get it, defensively,
go the distance.
Yeah. Well, you should get the ball back somewhere around midfield. You try and get him 3 and out. Coming out that inside the 5, coming out offensively, it reduces a lot of what you do.
Yeah, and then the fumble, the kid, great kid. I know the kid, Josh Kelly, great person. Good player for him. but he tried to make a play, and he reached that ball, and as soon as he went up, I said, I just winced, because I knew that wasn't gonna, and he was so far away, and they missed the backer. A backer came clean on the right side.
Okay, so here's what he did. I know the play because it's a play that we ran quite a bit too. He had a lead blocker and a puller in front of him to the left.
Yeah, he did.
Had he stayed with them, he'd have scored. But what he did, he saw a little crease there.
Yeah.
And they want you to stay wide on that, because a backer can't make the play then. He's got to go through the pile to get to you.
Yeah. The pile was to his left.
Yes.
More.
So what he did is he saw that and he went for it. He took what we used to call it, take cheese. Don't take the cheese on this, So he decided, I see that, I can get it there, and he hit it. Well, that's an unblocked player coming.
Right.
And if he's 250, maybe he goes through that, but and then he got airborne on top of that. So
yeah, that's what
just
I saw.
Inexperience and if you just stayed with it, and that's just not understanding the play down there, because those are, you don't get creases down there. You just got to mush it through, and he just got excited, saw it. And then on top of that, on top of that, if you're going to jump with the ball, you almost have to practice that. We used to practice that, because there's an art to that.
Yeah.
There's Sam Bam Cunningham,
Bam Bam Cunningham. Yep. New England Patriots. Yeah.
So that whole deal is, the thing about jumping over the pile, I haven't seen that in years, but you have to practice that too.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and he'll get a shot. He'll be okay with that.
He's a good player. He's a good addition for him too.
Yeah, tough kid, downhill kid, kind of like like they have there with some other players. Justin Jackson was really the star of the day in terms of running the ball. He got 86 yards. He didn't break 100, but boy, every yard of that 86 was key, and he got him at the right time, I thought, to keep him in the game. Yeah.
But the Chargers, even though they lost that game, I just felt like they had control of the game. I just felt like in the end that they were going to score and win, and they just kept pace with them. And they're so, I don't know what they did on defense, but that defensive front has come alive.
Yeah, and I don't know how, Mike, because
they added an interior. I can't remember his name. Somebody in the interior, and it's changed everything for them.
Yeah. And, I know who. Well, Linval Joseph came back.
That's what it was.
The big boy. Yeah, 98. He came back, and
he was a one-man wrecking crew in there.
Yes,
and he what he did is they kind of rallied, but they couldn't get the line of scrimmage trying to rush the ball. I'm talking about Kansas City. So
right.
But the good news for the Chargers is if they'll continue to play like that, and get better, particularly on defense, they're a real good football team right now. They're better than they were 3 weeks ago for sure.
Yeah. Well, and in the end too, the Chiefs, the playmakers made the plays. Which I like that, not just for them, for everyone. I always said your big play guys have to show up. In basketball, they always talked about, in the big games, the big time players, whether it was Bird or Magic or Jordan or whatever, those guys always play well. And you know what? They have to. You're not going to win that game if they don't play well. And going back to the fumble by Kelly going in the end zone. Well, they end up getting an interception a play later. That's when Mahomes threw the interception. They scored anyway. So that was a watch.
Yeah, so that's a watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that would have got him is if they just kicked one of the 3 opportunities where they went for it and fourth down. They were all 3 times they're in easy field goal range and they didn't do them. And and that's hindsight. I understand that. Like I said, I understand the 2 that were in close, but the one that was out, I think that's regrettable. I think I'd have taken that one. Yeah, that's the difference in the game.
Yeah, that's right. So there they go. Now this division, and that's funny because the Chargers could have gone to first place in that division
with a win,
more or less. Okay, because they would have doubled up the Kansas City Chiefs, but instead they go down 2 games. They're down. It's 10-4 versus 8-6.
So they play the Raiders this week, don't they? Is it the Raiders? I can't remember. I just kind of glanced at it. I thought they might have the Raiders here again this week.
Chargers?
Yeah.
No. Kansas City will go to Pittsburgh, and the Raiders will have Denver.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
Denver. That's a big game. Yeah.
That's right. And the Chargers won't see the Raiders until the end of the season. That's
so.
Final
who do the
game.
Chargers have this week? I don't have the schedule here.
Yeah. So the Chargers. I'm looking here on my schedule. They're going to go to Houston. I I don't like that game for them. I don't think Houston's very good, but I don't like that game for them coming off an emotional loss.
Well, yeah, normally,
that's a tough
yeah,
game
but I just, it depends on the head coach a lot, I think, Ron, and
that's true. Yeah.
I don't think he's going to let that happen. I think he's too good. I love this head coach. I love him. I think he's
Brandon Staley. Yeah.
I think Brandon is the real deal. He's a guy to hang your hat on. He's one of those guys that comes along every 30 or 40 years.
Also on that final drive too, when Mahomes and Kelsey went down and Hill, the stars got involved. Derwin James wasn't on the field for the Chargers, and that couldn't have helped matters at all.
No, I know it.
Yeah, you need all your horses out there running.
Yeah.
We were, let me see here. We're getting the schedule going. Okay, like I said, all of these changes now. So let me move to this one. The Buccaneers and the Saints. So traditionally, Tom Brady has struggled against the Saints in the regular season. Last year, he lost to them twice, but he beat them when
embarrassed both times. Yeah,
right. But he beats them when it counts the most in the playoffs.
Right.
So now this year, here we go again. They get bounced down there in Tampa, and it was an ugly performance. What did you see, Mike? Because a lot of people want to know what happened. What are they doing to Tom Brady that no one else seems to be able to do?
Well, first of all, they didn't have their top two receivers, did they? I'm talking about Tampa.
No, well, the guys went out. Yeah,
they went out early, but
they went out early
anyway. But
they didn't have AB.
Here's what I saw. I think when you have a defense that has unusual speed and they play with that speed all the time, you're not used to seeing that, and it shocked them. And they had so much speed everywhere, they couldn't handle their speed. And then they got confused in their protections a little bit. He did a great job of moving things around and getting guys isolated. And he was just off the mark. He was unsettled the whole time because they were hitting him. They're trying to hit him. And they're told to hit him as much as you can. We'll take the fight, just keep hitting him. And they did. At the end of the game, he went over to the coordinator over at Cincinnati and said something to him, because it's, Tom Brady hands off, no, they don't look at it like that, So he got knocked around pretty good, disguised things really well. They just got smothered. The receivers, they just got smothered. You really had nowhere to go with the ball a lot. So he's trying to make throws on the move, which he just can't do. He's not good on the move.
Not right now. No, not at his age.
And they just bottled him up and frustrated the heck out of him. He had no answer for it. And, you saw him throw the tablet and all that kind of stuff. And, at that point, when you've got to do stuff formation and motion wise, trying to help create picks and quick throws and things of that nature, but they didn't. They stayed with their plan, and it just wasn't good for what they were doing.
Yeah, and I've seen him throw the tablet before and get all uptight. So that's Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator, who
did a great job against him,
who was subbing in as head coach because of Sean Payton being out with the COVID, right?
Yes.
So that was that. So and that's, we've seen this theme a lot this week, and where this COVID thing is going, folks, we're going to see it probably through the rest of the season. So get ready for that. But let me take you back to something. You remember Greg Williams and Bounty Gate, right?
Yes.
When that year they took out three, arguably the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and it started with Kurt Warner. Then they took out Brett Favre in the playoffs, and then they took out Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. And now, when I say take out, I'm physically talking about taking out Warner and Favre. They put hits on them. They made sure that they went after them, and they said, okay, yeah, well, that's a 15-yarder. You're right. Take it. But we're going to see what this body and mind can do in the fourth quarter. And it worked out in their favor. So that felt like that was a little return to the days of old there.
Yeah, it did. But fortunately, the difference in the rules just doesn't allow that to happen anymore.
No, I know that. But the mindset.
Yeah, but that's a good mindset. I think that's good.
Of course it is.
I mean, you got to, they just weren't prepared for, I think their speed really shocked them, to be honest with you. Yeah. And without the receivers, obviously, there's not a whole lot he can do about it. And really, when you look at it, the thing that goes unnoticed is Tampa's defense did a great job.
Yeah.
They played really well. And that's, they make a living right now rushing the football. I'm talking about New Orleans does. And for the most part, they took care of that. They just shut that down. And then Of course, the quarterback Hill had to improvise, and they tried to get some quarterback sweeps and powers going and all that stuff. But they just got the lead and just sat on it.
You make a great point about the speed bothered Brady, the overall team speed on defense. So I just pulled up their schedule, and I'm looking. Okay, so they beat Dallas. This is the Buccaneers. They beat Dallas early in the year. All right, and Dallas was a different Dallas then. I don't think.
Yeah, defensively they were disoriented. Yeah.
Now the Rams did beat them, and the Rams is a team. The Rams are a team that has a lot team speed.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking at, and the next loss, they go 4 straight wins after that Rams loss, and guess who the next team is to beat them? The Saints.
Oh yeah.
There's that team speed again. Okay, now they go up to Washington after a bye week, lose again. And I believe they had the Washington football team had everyone healthy then. I think.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So and I believe they got a little speed on that defense too when
particularly the front. That front when they were healthy, when they had them all.
Yeah.
My gosh, that's a great front. And they just can't handle it. I know it sounds funny to people, but when you play, they used to say that about us on offense, our offensive players. We just played faster than everybody else. And it shocks players. It doesn't look like it on TV, but when you stand there on the field and you look at it, there's an intensity to that speed that just is relentless. They just never let up. Whether they're actually faster than the other team doesn't make any difference. They play faster than everybody. They just keep it up and keep going. Yeah. And the intensity of them shocked them. They just never let up, and that's who they are.
That's right. Now there's 2 teams that they beat that have speed again. The Colts and the Bills. But they got the Bills in a funky kind of game there, so we know how that one went. Yeah. So, but that's a good point. That's something to keep an eye on for our listeners to really keep an eye on, Mike. That's a great observation. So we'll monitor that. Here's one: the Cardinals and Rams. That was a weird game. I think we discussed that. Maybe that was. How much of that is coaching now? That's 2 in a row for the Cardinals. They went up to the Lions and get beat now. So sounds like they didn't get over the Rams thing, or they got exposed. What's going on here?
Well, I think people went to school on how to play him, Kyler Murray. They pressured him. In the past, they're so afraid of him getting out. If you pressure him, he gets out, he's gone. And there's just like we talked about. They've got the edge rushers up, contain him, and then you squeeze, and then you come up the middle with your 2 guys and just try and push the pocket back into his face because he's short.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a rule of thumb for him, and people try to do that. When the Rams tried to do that, it was successful, except the 2 times when the defensive end we talked about, 54 on the left side, he let him get outside, and then he made 2 big plays.
Leonard Floyd, yeah, right.
Yes, you just have to keep him inside and condense the pocket and just not let him. If he goes to bail, then you have to widen and contain him. So, and they did a real good job of that. And then they brought a couple guys, and the pressure got to him. And I think Detroit did a wonderful job defensively against them. And I think, too, it surprised him. I think their game plan, Danny's game plan on both sides of the ball was spot on for them. He did a great job with it. Players played good. Those players are playing at a different level than they played at the beginning of the season.
Thank you. I said that. Yeah, I've been saying that all week. Yeah, be careful playing the Lions now because they've had enough.
They're a real team now. Yeah, they're a real team.
Yeah, they've had enough of that talk. And the bigger problem is if you're not the right coach or you don't do a good job of coaching that week, your team will look like the Arizona Cardinals looked, like unprepared, no energy. I'm going to text you, said there's no energy.
Yeah.
What did they think? That these guys are going to believe that stuff about the lowly Lions and just let you walk in here? And that's not that coach. That's not Dan Campbell. I'm going to tell you that right now.
And I tell you, you think that in the NFL it wouldn't go on, but it does. And that's a little bit of the inexperience of Cliff Kingsbury for not being in that situation enough to know better.
Yep.
And those are the games where you have to be on edge and pissed off all week and make sure they understand that this is no joke. Anybody can beat anybody, and you just got to be you put your ugly on Monday and the players, this is going to happen again, but you do. But here's what happened to Kingsbury as a play caller. when they win, they rush the ball so well all the time. And they've done such a good job of running the football until now. And
You're
it
right.
disappeared.
Yeah. They've stopped
So,
running.
what happened is Detroit got up on them and they kind of abandoned the running game. Now they stuffed the running game, but usually he's patient enough to kind of stay with it and grind it a little bit, but they just abandoned that. And that was a mistake in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. They've done that the last couple of weeks now. They came out against the Rams. They came out like nervous and in a hurry and just rushed. It just didn't look right. Didn't look right. But
It didn't, the plays that were there to be made against the Rams, they didn't make them. And normally they make them, but so they were in the big show. They were undefeated, top of the league in terms of wins and losses, and they go to the Rams and they basically choke. Is what they did.
They straight up choked. That's what
And
it looked like.
The Rams just, the Rams played like they should play. The intensity, that defensive front, the energy, they just got after it. And then they started doing some things on defense too. They changed some things up. So that was good. But I think right now, Kingsbury's they're in that part of the season, Ron, as you know, as a player, you get to this part of the season, those players, those teams that are going to the playoffs are in that playoff mode. If you're playing one of those guys, buddy, you better strap up because it's going to be a long afternoon. You're going to get all they got.
You're going to get all they got. Yeah, you're darn right. You're going to get all they got, man.
And to me, that's what Detroit did to him.
Yeah,
and that kind of validates Danny Campbell right now.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's exactly right. So now the Cardinals first place in the division, but here come the Rams. Okay, and
here
the
come
Rams,
the 49ers,
and here come the 49ers as well. And now Indianapolis is next up for the Cardinals at home. And that's going to be an issue. That's going to be an interesting game. And then they've got to go to Dallas and round out with Seattle. So they could very well choke out for the rest of the season. I could see that easily happening.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen because Indy's a heck of a defense. They're going to have to find a way to get that ball, on the ground again. They've got to create that running game that they've lost. That back is such a good player. Connor, he's such a good player.
Yeah.
And they got to give him the ball, and they just didn't get him the ball.
No, he was trying to go. I mean, he had a nice.
Now I will say this: it's easy for us to sit here and say that, but as a play caller, when you get into those situations, there's a little bit of panic to it, but you feel like you got to make something happen. You know what I mean? And if you run the ball and get stuffed, now it's 2nd 10, you run it again, it's 3rd and 10. It's pretty easy to abandon the game the next year, or abandon the running game the next series. So you've got to be creative in what you do and trying to rush the football too.
Yeah. All right, let's move it along here. Ron Pitts, Mike Martz, Run It Again podcast, and the America's team, as they say, the Dallas Cowboys, beat up on the Giants. Didn't think I was going to see much for the Giants. So how good are these Cowboys right now? I'll let you go first on this one. I'll throw my 2 cents in.
I think they're obviously going to be in the playoffs. I don't know that they're good enough to win it all. Physically, they are certainly, but
yeah,
they just find a way to screw it up in big moments. They always have, and that's kind of still there to me. The thing that's helped them so much right now, Ron, is they're playing such good defense. Yeah. They're really good on defense, and offensively, I really believe that the head coach is kind of taking over some of the play calling there because it's changed dramatically. They've become way more conservative now, and that bombs away stuff is gone.
And that's good. And then you're saying that's good for them.
It's a very good thing because it helps the defense. And what happens is, that 2-back system, they're patient with the running game. Yeah. The whole idea is to win the game, not see how many yards you can get and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think they're controlling the football game, and they're playing winning football right now. And if they'll stay with that, then I think they have a great chance. But there's something about them. Everybody who loves the Cowboys. They feel like, yeah, okay, but like you said a few weeks ago. So
yeah,
they certainly are good enough. At the beginning of the year, I really felt like for the NFC, it'd either be Green Bay or the Cowboys in there. Then the Cowboys have kind of fooled around a little bit, but they're just so talented, Ron. There's no reason for them not to be there in the end, but I just don't know if they can do that.
2 of the next 3 games are divisional opponents. Washington coming up next, and that's at home. And so Washington will either step up and play better than they played in a big game at home last week, or they'll say goodnight and make those reservations for Cancun. Yeah. And then Arizona and Philadelphia to round it out.
So, Ron, here's the thing about that, though. When you play a division opponent the first time and you lose, it's hard for that team to come back and beat that opponent again. It's just hard. It's hard to sweep an opponent in the division. That's right.
Yeah.
So I do think that Washington was missing some guys in that game.
Yeah.
In the defensive front, and I think they get some guys back. So it's not going to be easy for the Cowboys. It won't be easy for them. It'll be a tough game for them. But if they're for real, they got to sweep this thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we'll keep an eye on
Dak's
that
numbers are not good. They're just average, and he's not average.
Yeah, I know. The Dak seems like he's on that tightrope of I'm okay. And then you see him do this. Oh, whoa.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing I see, Ron, about him is since that injury, the first part of the year he looked like himself.
Yeah.
For some reason, he's gotten real nervous in the pocket.
Looks nervous in the pocket.
I've never seen him like that, but he's gotten real nervous and jittery, and I don't know why. But he's a different quarterback than he was at the beginning of the year for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Raiders pulled one out. Man, what a game. Monday. Pulled it out. And that was part of 2 games that got pushed to Monday. The Vikings and Bears. I'm not even going to really discuss that one. That was a rough game to watch, full of penalties, full of mad coaches, Matt Nagy, and some of it was legit. But anyway, so the Vikings stay alive at 7-7. But the Raiders, but poor Cleveland Browns. If you want to know what the Cleveland Brown fans' angst is and why they're bitter historically about some things, go back and watch that game. That was a perfect example of what happens to them. The darn game is all but won in the last few minutes there. If they get one more first down, I believe that game is over, Mike. But they end up giving the ball back to Derek Carr, and you peeped this long ago. Derek Carr is much better quarterback than maybe people want to give him credit for, and I think he's better now with the coaching change for some reason. He looks different. He looks better. And they went right down the field. And as soon as they got the ball, I said, this is trouble. They're going to kick a game-winning field goal and walk out of here. And that's what they did.
Yeah. And I think that on Derek Carr, on that whole topic, I think he has been subdued his entire career because of who he's been with there, And I guess it's a slam on John to some extent, but that's just not John's office. John is a passing game inside 10 yards kind of a guy. And Derek is just he's more talented than that. You don't need to be a great player to play in that offense. That's a great player that's been kept down. And right now, they're freeing him up a little bit. And here's the other thing. When things are just bad, you're doing a football cha-cha 1, 2, 3 kick, 1, 2, 3 kick. Like we watched with the Bears here last night, right? The Bears, they can't pee a drop. Then all of a sudden, they go to 2 minutes, and they go twice. They go right down the field. Now, they don't score your time, but they go right down the field. So the moral of that story is, and it's hard as a coach to do, is if your things aren't going right, you just pull out 2 minutes, say, okay, guys, we're going speed up. We're going to 2 minute right now. Wait a minute, it's the middle of the second quarter. I know. Yeah. Well, we got to get something going. And it just changes everything.
Yeah.
And that's what, at the end there, when they get in 2 minute, he's in full control then, and he's calling the plays at that point. Most 2 minute teams, they're calling it. You leave it to the quarterback, and because you want to go fast, and you don't want to stay there to listen to it, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, big win for the Raiders. They stay alive in this thing, and for the Browns, it just made it so much harder. And they had everyone in the world out. They had 21 plus guys, 20 guys to be exact, out officially on COVID. They didn't have the big receiver in Landry. They didn't have Baker Mayfield, and the list went on and on. Changes at coaching. The head coach was out, and Prefer came in as the head coach, your special teams coach as the head coach. So And that was cool actually to see, special teams coach versus special teams coach, Basacci on the Raiders, he was the interim head coach. So that was actually kind of interesting. But again, just take my hat off to the Raiders, man. What did Al Davis used to say, just win, baby. And they just won.
But you have to give credit to that group with all that was missing, that they went in there were as competitive as they were.
Oh,
they played as well as they did. The Raiders, for the most part, at full strength, I guess. And to go in there and play them the way they played with basically the JV team, I guess, more or less. They did great.
Nick Mullins, you're down to your number 3. You don't even have Case Keenum.
Yeah,
they were down to 3. I thought Mullins did a pretty darn good job in finding the guy in the end zone there late in the game. I thought they
did a real good job.
They played well enough to win it. Now I guess you got to get one more first down, I guess. Yeah. But that's a tribute to the.
That's what happened to them last year in the playoffs. Remember, they just needed one more first down.
One more couldn't do it. Yeah. So
but look at that division now. Look at the 4 teams in that division. They're all 8-8, 7-7, I think, aren't they? Isn't that all? Aren't they all wrapped up in there together?
Well, that's been the whole talk of the AFC. It's a bunch of 7-win teams,
right?
All jumbled up there, and I call them the killer bees: the Bengals, Broncos, Browns. All of those guys all jammed up together. So,
but within that division, you got Cincinnati,
Cleveland. Yeah,
they're all. The first 2 are 8-win teams.
8-6. Yep.
Then 7-7 is there something like that. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, Cincinnati and Baltimore right now with the Baltimore lost to Green Bay. We'll talk about that in a second. They're 8-6, both of those teams, and Pittsburgh 7-6 and Cleveland 7-7 now.
So who's going to win that thing? That's so highly competitive coming down the stretch. That's what's so cool. Here's what's so cool about the NFL right now. I think right now, usually there's a couple teams that have got it wrapped up. They got everything wrapped up. They're probably going to have the bye week, and that's just not the case anymore. No. There's only maybe 2 or 3 teams in the league right now that you would say they just can't. They can come up and beat somebody occasionally, but they're just not any good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's do this. Let's talk about this since we're in that division, and one team in that division just lost to the Green Bay Packers. That's the Baltimore Ravens. Boy, that was an interesting game. Now, here's what I saw. I saw a team that first, and by the way, I thought Huntley, the quarterback, Tyler Huntley, kid out of Utah, played really well, and I like him. He does a lot of things that Lamar does, and then he does some things I think a little bit better passing wise than I saw from Lamar. There's something there. He seems a little more centered and balanced. Anyways, it came down to the last play. They came with a play, Mike, to the Andrews, the tight end, who had caught a bunch of balls. I think he had over 10 catches, but it just seemed like Green Bay knew that play was coming, and they had 2 guys there, and I wanted to see more of an option with the quarterback to do something else if that guy wasn't open, and they didn't give it to him. It was like, this is it, one or done.
I just shook my head because when you sprint out on a 2-point play, it's worthless, just worthless. If you've got 1/4 of the end zone to get. You got
one play.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. One play, 1/4 of the end zone to get the ball into. You've eliminated everything else because, it was a full sprint. It wasn't a quick sprint. It was full rollout. And when you do that, the safety, which is the guy that made the play, he's coached to run underneath everything over there, which is exactly what he did.
Get underneath it. You're right.
They just run and get underneath it. And there's only one receiver over there. So there was nothing else over there. I wish if you're going to do that, then go 3 receivers to the left side, put him over there on the right side, talking about the tight end.
Yeah.
And throw a fade to him on that little corner.
Yeah.
That has more of a chance.
That play
that was just
no chance.
It's a little bit like I hate to say this, but it was a little bit like the Bears 4th down play last night or whatever that thing was. I don't know what that was down the end zone. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. My gosh. Yeah. Did you just make that up in the sideline? I mean, come on.
Oh,
that was horrendous. That was a horrendous play call, design, everything. You got to have better than that. You just got to have better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
You're not giving your guys a chance to win the game, man. I mean, come on.
but see, that's why this division is what it is. And so now that begs the next discussion. How good are the Cincinnati Bengals? Here's what I heard out of their camp last week. And it kind of struck me funny because it's not like you guys have been blowing people out of the water. I love what I see from the quarterback Burrow and Jamar Chase. And I love that. I like what I see, but I don't like what I see from some things defensively in their secondary.
Yeah.
They play some coverages that look like, you talk about just drawing them up. Yeah. They look like they just got introduced to the game of football. But they said, well, and this came from the head coach. Well, Zach Taylor, well, no one really wants to play us right now. We know people are ducking us. We just have to get it all together. What the hell does that mean?
That's ridiculous.
Wait, dude, you're 8-6. You're jammed up here with Baltimore. You're one game ahead of Pittsburgh and now one game ahead of the bottom team in the division, the Cleveland Browns. How can you make a statement like that?
That's a ridiculous statement there. I guess you say that for your players to motivate them somehow, kind of prop them up. I guess. Yeah,
that's meeting room talk, right? Closed door meeting room.
It's not something you say in the media, I don't think. But
no, and that was blasted out nationally. I looked at that, and said, "Wait a minute, what do you think?" And then some of the players echoed that, and I understand. They're just following the lead of the coaches, but wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, that's something you do tell your players. Nobody wants to play us. I mean, maybe he feels that way, and that's great. If the players take that persona on, they feel that way. I think that's great, but I don't think that's something you say nationally. I mean, I don't think that the stuff that we used to talk to the players about who they are and all that stuff. I would never discuss that with anybody.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I guess I don't like it, but maybe it has its effect too. Maybe it will have a positive effect. I don't know.
Yeah,
I really don't. I just I know that conference or that division right now is really tough.
Well, let's talk division since we're there, and then we'll get in next week's games. So I'll start on the AFC side, AFC East. It's New England 9-5, Buffalo 8-6, and Miami is quietly coming. Miami has reeled off 6 in a row, and they're trying to roll. I think it's too little, too late. Especially they've got a Hummer coming up with some of their schedules and games.
They're not good enough, Ron. They're just not good.
I don't think it's going to happen this year. But now the question is, has something been opened up on Mac Jones, and then how does the Patriots? How does Bill Belichick fix it and recenter it after this loss?
No, I don't think he found an Achilles. I think the thing that hurt them is the thing that surprised me is they rushed the ball so well against them, and they're patient with it. And what Bill has always done is he'll find out why you win, the things that you do really well that makes you win, and he just takes it away.
That's right.
And that's what he does. And so what was remarkable about that, you knew he was going to try and take the running game away and put it in Wentz's hands, and he couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. So I think that it's a kind of revealing in terms of how good they really are. And I do think that Mac Jones is a really good player. I don't try and think they're protecting him or anything else like that. I think it's just some of the things just happens.
Yeah. AFC North, we just talked about that division. That one's up for grabs. Anybody's going to grab that one. AFC South, I've always liked Tennessee and I've always liked Indy, and that's where this division's going to come down to. It's going to be between those two teams.
Well, I think Indy's a better team right now. Of course, with the running back issues down in Tennessee, and I don't know if the quarterback is really that good. I really think that Indianapolis is like San Francisco. Those teams remind me of each other. They're big physical teams that rush the football very well and play good at quarterback, and they're good on defense.
Yeah. Now, Indianapolis, as we said, they're going to go to Arizona. All right. So that's game.
That's a wonderful game. That'll be a big game there now.
Yeah. And that's a dangerous game for Indianapolis. And it's a must-win game for Arizona, the way I look at it. And then after that, they've got the Raiders at home back in Indy. Boy, Raiders are traveling this year. And then they end up down in Jacksonville for their season. So that's how that's going to go. Meanwhile, if we look at the Tennessee Titans, they have an interesting schedule because here's how this one is going to go. They're going to have San Francisco at home, okay, and then Miami at home. So the next two games are at home. I like Tennessee in those next two games at home. even though the 49ers are playing pretty darn well.
I think the 49ers are playing really well. I think that's a tough game for Tennessee to win. I do think they'll beat Miami. They're just better.
Yeah.
I'm on the bandwagon for San Francisco because when I watch them, they're physical on both sides of the ball. They're just playing such good football right now. They just don't make mistakes. And, that's a team really that is kind of a dark horse, but is really a good football team.
So they're 8-6. Okay. And in that division, the NFC West, they're third because of Arizona, who's just stumbling and bumbling all over the place. And the Rams, who appear to have gotten it together, they'll play tonight as two games go off. Yeah. As two games go off, Washington, Philadelphia, along with this one. But now they've got this coming out of the rest of the season. They've got Tennessee, as we talked about, then Houston at home. I got to think they can pull that one off. But then they got to go to Los Angeles to play the Rams. And that could be a big time game. That literally could be for a division for someone.
Well, that's not a trip that they don't look forward to.
No, right. They've beaten them, 6 straight times?
Yeah, they own them. So,
yeah.
That'll be probably that week. That's probably going to be the game of the week, when you look at it.
That's right. And now the Rams are going to be thinking, okay, now how many times are we going to let these guys beat us? And now this one could be for the division. So that, like you said, that could be the game of the week.
Well, I do think the Rams are a different football team right now. Much different. Yeah. I think the quarterback, if Matthew Stafford will continue to play like he did here last week, I think they win it. And I think they do beat San Francisco. I think the head coach there has done a great job of bringing these guys back and getting them on point, so to speak. They played with a great deal of intensity and emotion in that last game. And that's why they'll have to finish it out like that. They played championship football last week. They really did. They looked like a championship team.
Yeah, they did.
And they just were lackluster before that. The quarterback would come out and throw pick six and kind of stumble around a little bit, but they're always in it, because they're good.
Yeah.
So if you can eliminate that, and he plays good football, and he's the key to that team, period.
Yeah, I think the Rams win the division. With Arizona slipping, and unless they slip and San Francisco takes off, I think the Cardinals are going to stumble out of this thing. I don't think. Well, you mentioned it. I don't think you can lose back-to-back games this late and then recover from it. But
they have a problem there right now. In both games, they did not play like they played earlier.
No.
And I do think what you said earlier about having the key to what's happening with Kyler Murray and how to play him is accurate. I think and if you're not going to run the football, then that's what you do. You
keep him in the pocket, make him play.
Keep him in the pocket, squeeze it together, and ultimately you're going to bat balls down. And
they shut him down.
They shut him down. Yeah, so they've got to gear up the running game. If they don't do that, then it's going to be hard for them to win the rest of the year.
Yeah. So this AFC West, Kansas City in control now, 10-4. They could with a win. They should be able to get in the playoffs. I believe that's a deal with them. The Chargers still hanging in there, 8-6. Vegas now at 7-7, along with Denver at 7. Denver just won't go away. Denver and Vegas won't go away.
Denver's so good on defense, Ron, and they're good on offense. The quarterback does a good job. I mean, they manage things well, but defensively they're so physical and they just make things happen on defense. The Raiders ultimately, it's just kind of a roller coaster. You just don't know who's going to show up from week to week. There's 1 week they look good, the next week they play their ass off, and you just don't know who's going to play.
Mike, how good can the Raiders be?
Because
they seem like a team. They seem like one of those teams. Yeah, when the lights are bright, they'll pull out a good one, a big one.
I think
but then they'll go back home when the lights turn off against a team they're supposed to beat, and the same energy won't be there. I can't figure them out.
Well, that's a leadership thing, though, Ron. I mean, that's what head coaches do,
Yeah.
And that's what Cliff Kingsbury's got to do with Arizona. There's a problem there. You got to address it, and it's your job to keep them up and not have those valleys, And that's a hard thing to do, but that's what you get paid to do.
But what I'm seeing is right. Is it not?
Yes, no question. Yeah. No question. they're really a good football team, right? And their defensive front, as you know, I really like what they do. So, and the quarterback, I've always thought he's a terrific player.
Yeah.
They're playing good, and like you said, big games are going to show up. They're going to be formidable. So,
yeah.
that's
Okay,
a great job for somebody next year. I tell you
that. Who's going to get that job? And then what's going to happen down in Jacksonville?
I have no idea. Jacksonville will make another mistake. It's just because that's why Jacksonville's Jacksonville, you know.
Gosh. Yeah.
And the Raiders, I don't know. You know what happens, John? You know, they like with John, they turn the hiring over to these companies.
Oh, these search firms. Don't get me started. I'm about to snap on that. Yeah.
And the net result from that is never good. So
no.
You know, you have to know football to hire a real good football coach. You just do. So it's like the Bears. They keep making mistakes. So you have to know football to be able to hire a good football coach. So whoever's doing the hiring, they really have to understand and know, you know, good football coaches. And instead of the knee-jerk kind of thing. So
yeah, that search firm deal, that does not work, folks. I don't care what they tell you. The percentages of it long-term don't work. You need real football people at some point who know what they're looking at and know a coach when they see one to make the decision.
And there's some really good ones out there. Obviously, offensive coordinator at
of course.
KC, he's
the enemy.
Those guys, yeah, all those guys should, at this point, these jobs should be opportunities for them. That just got to happen, you know.
Yeah. NFC. Let's go to NFC. And by the way, the Chiefs. No, they're gonna need some help, and they can't wrap it up just yet because the Chargers are too close, and that division's still too close. So that one's gonna go a few more weeks. NFC East. Dallas is in control of that one. That won't be an issue for them. They can start thinking about playoffs and so on and so forth. Green Bay has locked up the division and the playoff spot. The NFC South now, Tampa Bay is in the lead there. They're up by 3 over the Saints. The Saints have doubled them up. So really the Buccaneers would have to lose out and the Saints would have to win out for them to go into the tiebreaker, which the Saints would win.
I think the Tampa Bay is a little bit of a problem here because they've lost so many good players. Well, and with the COVID thing coming down the stretch, it's not going to be the best team. It's going to be who has more players available.
Right.
And it's a shame because that's going to determine whether you get in the playoffs or not. And that shouldn't be, but that's what's going to happen. Like Cincinnati. You know, Cincinnati, what they got all their guys, do they win that game? Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
You know, and yet they take that loss and maybe it affects them in the playoffs. I don't know. But the last 3 games here, this certainly, you know, can be the factor in terms of whether you win or lose. So that's unfortunate.
Well, Mike, you said it about going back to Urban Meyer. You said it. He wasn't coming back, man. I laughed not at the situation, just at how good you were with it. You said, "Oh, he's not coming back." I was like, "Wow,
he's not coming."
How'd you know that? But you knew that
he's not coming back, and of course,
the
Bears they'll be looking for somebody. New York will be looking for somebody. So it's just, you know, you got to make a change. You just can't keep doing the same stuff. You just can't do it.
Yeah. So NFC West, I feels like the Rams have the energy, and unless San Francisco at 8-6 can chase the Rams down, the Rams stumble. This will be an interesting finish.
Well, they can get at least a game closer by beating them in the final game for sure.
Oh yeah.
What I'm curious about is how well the Rams play this week up in Seattle. And Seattle's, you know, they reemerged here at the end of the season with this running back Penny, the kid from San Diego State.
Rashad Penny, 137 yards rushing.
I still don't, I didn't look it up, I meant to, but he's been out for 2 years and he's not played. And I don't know why. Maybe he was injured. I don't know.
No, Mike, he had a knee injury, his first year out.
Oh, okay.
And he, you know, so he got into that cycle of rehabilitation, and you know how the league is now. They find other dudes and they go forward, right?
He got pushed back a little bit, yeah.
Right. Chris Carson comes along, a couple other backs, they go forward with you, and you know, they kept him on the roster, kept him going. But he so now they got in a situation where they had to go back to him, And he ran well against
Ron,
Texans.
he didn't run well. He was exceptional, buddy. He was exceptional. He's a beast, big old dude now, and he's got the jump cut. He's got speed. He's got it all. He ran over him. He ran around him. This will be hard. I tell you what Seattle will do. They'll try and go back and do kind of what the 49ers did to him, dominate run the game if they can. But I'm anxious to see the energy level and how well LA plays up there.
Now, it's funny because COVID actually helped the Seahawks, I believe, because last week, Tyler Lockett, along with Alex Collins, running back, were COVID listed guys.
Yeah.
But now with the extension of the game being pushed forward, now those guys may be able to come off. And with the new rule changes and protocol, it's gone from you used to have to test clean, or negative twice within a 48-hour period. Now it's a 24-hour period. So the league has made it easier for guys to test out of protocol.
Makes you more
and on the field.
Chance of being available.
Yeah, right. So that may happen. I think another big loss for this team is the Seahawks is Jamal Adams is gone for the year.
Yeah, that's
so
awful.
that's
awful.
They I was looking up how much money they gave up for him, Mike.
Yeah,
I didn't realize they gave him a 4-year, $70 million contract, and they gave him 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick and a player.
And he just didn't.
Didn't. He's not that guy.
He's not that guy.
He's not that guy.
From the very beginning, you watch him play, you expect.
No, I like him. And I think he needs a certain amount of guys around him in other places, like a serious number 1 edge rusher and then a serious D tackle. Then he can be a real big impact guy.
So let me ask this question, Ron, as a former player. And I know it's going to vary from player to player. I get all that based on personality and character. But when guys hit it rich, so to speak, like that, and they go to a team and they're paid all this money, there's that thought with some coaches that they don't shut it down, but they got it and they're happy and they just don't compete like they normally do. How much of that is true, and how often does that happen in your mind?
I think it happens quite a bit, at least 50% of the time. We were talking the other day. I was talking to Jackie Slater. Jackie turned to me and said, have you ever seen a running back get a big time contract and then play as well after the contract as he played before the contract? Yeah. And I was thinking, not very often. Right. No. And let me tell you, if you give that guy that money, he better be a high impact guy where the players can see that difference. Like I'll give it like a Bruce Smith.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
then I can see it in terms of sacks, or the quarterback. I can see it there, or a left tackle. I remember what was it? What year was that in Green Bay? I think it was 90. We drafted Tony Mandrich. They left Barry Sanders on the board. They left Derek Thomas on the board, and about 2 or 3 other Hall of Famers on the board, and went with Tony Mandrich because he was supposed to be the guy, left tackle coming out of Michigan State. And let me tell you, we had 3 offensive linemen holding out that year because of the money they gave Mandrich. They wouldn't come into camp.
Yeah.
And we started out, Mike, something like 1-4, 2-5, something like that, and missed the playoffs by 1 game. And that was the difference. The locker room blew up about it.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on who that guy is. He better be a guy that's a good locker room guy. Number 1, the guys like, but he better make an impact, immediate one.
So here's how I look at it. Guys on a team that get rewarded with a big contract because of past performance, to me, they're more likely to continue that type of performance. Same environment, same coaches, and they feel like it's a reward and they're comfortable with it. They just play better. Mm-hmm. Guys that have a great season at the end of their contract jump and go to a new team and get paid all that money. Locker room doesn't know them. They don't know what they've really done. They know of him, and all that stuff, but it's a different dynamic.
Oh, that's a different dynamic now. Yeah. And that's what Jamal Adams was. He came from another team and got paid. Right.
And I think that's it's just like when we re-up Isaac and Torrey and all those guys, nothing changed for them. They still competed at that highest level, but, and then, you get guys coming in and you pay them a lot of money and they're just not who you thought they were. That's the initial part of free agency, Ron. I remember because I came into the league right at the beginning of free agency. In the first few years of free agency, it was almost like, why did we do this? Because those guys that got out those big salaries and moved, they disappeared. They didn't do anything.
They disappeared. Yeah.
It took years before that whole system made sense because initially it really didn't. Initially, the free agents, when guys sign guys, they got their paycheck and they just shut it down, so to speak.
Yeah.
But now it's different. It is the whole dynamic of it is totally different now. But I just see it too often where, teams will throw all this money at somebody because of past whatever they're thinking of the career, and they show up and that's what made me think of that as Adams, because I've seen that happen quite a bit actually in the league.
Yeah.
From a player's perspective, I was kind of curious what you thought about it.
Yeah, and is he a good player? A very good player. Love watching his energy and on all that stuff. And the announcers love to pump it up. But when you really break it down for what they paid for it, no, that's not. And maybe that's one of the things that got Russell Wilson fired up over the offseason. We're paying safeties this kind of money, and we need O linemen.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, I don't think
that doesn't sit well
about that. Yeah,
that doesn't sit well. I don't know.
But so many of those things, and we could do a couple of shows on just the dynamics of the locker room. I think
Yeah.
And it's so fragile, and to have a great locker room is all about winning.
Yep, that's right. Well, Mike, we got to get out of here. Some games coming this weekend, boy. Now we're in the holidays, Christmas time, so it's time to play football. so we got games that have been moved and pushed back from COVID. All right. Yeah. And then we got games coming up on Saturday, Christmas Day. You're going to see the Browns and Packers and Colts and Cardinals. So that'll be fun. And Mike, I told you every week I was going to mention a NFL legend to you, right? Remember that? Yeah. I told you that. Yeah. Okay. So I know we're short on time, and our producer Roy Hamilton, he's on me here. So we got to get it rolling. But I'm just going to mention a guy, and you give me about 30 seconds on him because I know you remember who he is. Jumpy Gathers. And you tell us what one move was he notorious for that to this day strikes fear in offensive linemen's hearts?
Oh, was it the up and under?
I'll give you a hint. Beep, 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 beep. That's the sound of the forklift backing up.
Oh, right, the forklift.
The forklift move. Remember he had a forklift move that somehow it defied physics. He could get underneath one shoulder, pull the other shoulder back, and walk the lineman back. The move looked like something out of the Matrix. It was surreal. And to this day, if you mention that name, Jumpy Gathers, to any offensive lineman, they go like this.
Yeah,
they wince. I mentioned it to Jackie Slater, Hall of Famer. Jackie went, "Oh Lord."
But to me, I just remember him on that up and under move.
That's it.
He was so violent. He would get up and he'd get that shoulder, the outside shoulder of the offensive lineman up in the air, and then he'd come underneath it, across his face, and he'd just deposit him right back in the quarterback's lap.
Like that was the forklift.
That was okay. So let me tell you this, and I wish I could remember the kid's name. I keep forgetting this poor kid's name. The Rams left end 54. What's his name?
Oh, Leonard Floyd.
He rushes like Jumpy Gathers rushes.
Yeah.
He's got that violent pass rush.
Yeah.
He's a little lacking on technique, but man, if that kid could use his hands better, like Jumpy was so unbelievable. He's got that reach was ridiculous. He get on that shoulder and like you say, the forklift, that shoulder, and then back underneath it. But that kid reminds me of Jumpy Gathers. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's what the sports shows don't show you guys like that. They don't talk about Jumpy Gathers. They show you the other ones, the great ones. But go ahead and do a little research for our listeners out there and viewers. go ahead and do some research on jumpy gathers and see what you come up with.
Get online and look him up and get a video of him. And you go, oh, that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot out there. I'm surprised. I don't know why. I mean,
they'll have something.
You'll find something out there. All right, Mike. Well, I guess we should wish happy holidays to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Because we're here in Christmas. Just feels like another week in NFL to me, but it is Christmas time and holiday time. So
people say happy holidays, Ron. I say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Good stuff, man. Gotcha.
All
right, brother.
Okay.
I will see you next week.
Right on.
All right. Take care.